Welcome to the post-fight Clink. I am your host, Big Bang Mike. This is the show where about a week after somebody's first fight, we get together, we clink a glass, we have a drink, and we just recap. Today, I'm being guested. I don't know if that's a word. Guested today by Damon, now officially the Demon Anderson, after his first fight at Steel Fist Fight Night 112. Remember, you can always look at those previous podcasts for the fight cherry to see him before the fight, and the scrap down to actually see the fight itself. Before we get started, the Demon, can we go ahead and clink those glasses?
Oh, you betcha.
Nice. I love it, my man. All right, Demon, let's get into it. Let's just get into the mix of it. Let's not pussyfoot around, okay? What were you surprised about within this first fight?
Gosh, this first fight for me, the biggest surprise was the amount of time it didn't take. Yeah, I mean, I had prepared day after day, week after week, hour after hour. I mean, just put so much effort into expecting a 3-round fight, you know. So that was the biggest thing. That's what surprised me the most is the 33-second finish, and just not as much time in the cage as I thought it would have been.
Right. And it happened so fast. And first fights tend to happen pretty quickly. I think we even talked about this in private, where like my first fight lasted I think a minute and 3 seconds. Oftentimes when people get into fights for the first time, it's something that they want to do pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. So they perhaps take first fights a lot quicker than I would suggest that they do, let's say.
Yeah.
So, I don't know who your fighter was or who your opponent was personally by any means. But I do know that you trained essentially for that 33 seconds for the last 3 years. And that's what happens when you go in there knowing the stuff, right? Like
Correct.
You go in there and it tends to be perhaps a lot bigger or easier than you built up in your head. Did you have an expectation in your head that you didn't share with us on the fight, Cherry?
No, I didn't. I was just so focused on getting that win, and however that happened was what I expected of myself, to put in the work and then to be able to perform. That was the expectation, and I guess I was just so shocked when it had ended.
Right.
Yeah.
You wanted a little bit more. You wanted. I think your exact words were, "I wanted a little more heat."
Yeah. I think I blinked maybe once, in that fight, and I was like, "Oh crap!" I just saw an opening and took it. So,
well, and that's what we do, and that's what we train for the last 3 years for, is to be able to see those openings and execute those openings, right?
Yep.
And we do enjoy, I know you particularly enjoy the sport of MMA, and you enjoy the stories and the back and forth of everything. But really what it comes down to is what we're doing is self-defense, right? Mm-hmm. And what you executed in that ring was pretty much prime self-defense. It was visceral. It got the job done, and that's what we were looking to do, is get that job done. What was your favorite part of the fight? Not necessarily like the actual fight, because I know we're only talking about like we're joking about 33 seconds,
right?
But the part, it could be leading up to the fight, it could be the party after the fight, it could be anything. What was your favorite part of fighting?
I think there's two things that stand out for me as a favorite, just maybe a moment. There's a lot, right? And I don't want to.
There's a lot of good stuff that happens in fights, yeah.
Especially when you bring home the W.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, you don't have to pick one, but we are picking one.
I think just things I'll never forget. When I was fighting, there was a lot of things that my brain kind of skipped over. There was just a couple highlights that I could remember, and then not until after I had watched the fight that I actually remembered doing a couple other things. But the walkout for me was really exciting.
Yeah,
the walkout was really cool. Just being super zoned in and having those fireworks kind of go off, and then your songs playing, and everybody's like, the crowd's getting all hyped up to watch you fight, and you can kind of feel that adrenaline rush from the crowd. And that was a really exciting first moment for me.
Yeah, well, I think that in my opinion, your energy was pretty palpable like from backstage, and the second you started to walk out, like I could feel you almost like blowing up like a balloon, like something was about to burst.
Oh yeah,
which was a lot of fun. One piece of advice that I would give you in your second fight, or to anybody who is looking to fight, is that it's less important in your first fight because the announcers don't really know anything about you anyways. That's why, like, if you watch Damon's fight, they talk about me a lot because they don't know anything about Damon, so they can only talk about me. What I would recommend, especially for your second fight, is because that was such a good experience for you and you enjoyed that, take a little bit more time with it.
Okay.
Walk out a little bit slower. Be a little bit not necessarily more chill, but allow yourself to embrace that moment for reasons like you just mentioned, because it is a very good feeling to have, and it's a very rare feeling to have. But certainly because all the people on pay-per-view are watching, and the announcers, they have to vamp, so they're going to talk about how cool you are.
That's true, yeah.
So, like, I always, if you watch any of my fights, you'll see me taking time to get to that cage, just because I know that they have to talk cool shit about
keep
me.
hyping me up.
Keep hyping me up.
Love it.
But that walkout was awesome. Any other secondary or tertiary memories that you would think that you enjoyed?
One of the things, that I kept continuously playing that tape through was just getting that medal. I know that maybe for some it's just a gold coin on a shiny little, necklace, but for
I'd buy them. They cost like $7.
Right, exactly. But for me, that was very sentimental. So I played that tape through, just getting that was some of my inspiration for taking the fight. And when they finally put that over, I was like,
I don't think, like, I feel like people think that on a surface level can think that that's pretty, like, petty or whatever, but I don't think that a lot of people really understand what that means to somebody who might enjoy the sport or who has worked really hard over the course of a few years to be able to get. There's like an old saying that says, you are never rich until you get something that money can't buy. And that's what it feels like to get a medal like that. Like, you could talk about how wealthy people are, billionaires, Elon, Bezos, all those guys. They can't get a medal like that. They can't. I mean, they could if they worked hard for it and like did it, but like that's kind of the idea, is that like you couldn't buy that. I mean, you pay your dues here at the gym, but you can't buy that, and that's such a good feeling, in my opinion. Those belts, those medals.
I agree, and it's something earned, right? I mean, you might get like as a kid, maybe you were 14 years old and you got a new PlayStation for Christmas, right? But then that same kid decided he was going to mow everybody's lawn for the last year to earn that money to then buy the PlayStation. I'll tell you which kid tends to value that object a little bit more.
Right, right. I mean? Yeah, exactly. And that's what we do here with like the kids here at the OMA Ranger Academy, right? You're part of the combat club, but the kids program is the Ranger Academy for obvious reasons. But we want to make sure that this is a trial that we go through to be able to get it. And I think that that's cool that you have one of those. I still have my first medal. It's up in the trophy room right now.
I'm going to shadow box mine with, my gloves in there, my hand wraps. It definitely meant something to me.
Nice. I love that. Now, obviously, elephant in the room, we can see that you have an injury. Walk us through, walk us through what happened. Walk us through, obviously, what you think has happened, because I don't think that we know exactly when it happened. Can you give us an overview of it?
It's hard to say the exact moment for sure, because
in the 33 seconds,
right? And your adrenaline's going, so when it happened, I didn't really feel it. After the fight, as if anybody's watched that full playthrough, or if you were in the crowd, I was kind of messing with my hand a little bit, so I could tell that it was something was wrong, but still couldn't really feel it. It's like, oh, maybe I just jammed a finger or something. That's kind of what it felt like, because the adrenaline's so high. However, there's really only a handful of times that it could have come from. And I think looking back on it, there was a combo that I had hit an uppercut, or maybe a hook to the body and then uppercut to the guy's skull. And come to find out, human skulls are quite a bit thicker than the human hand. So I've gone to the doctor. They said that most people who hit somebody wrong end up breaking the outside of their hand, where I had broke the second metacarpal, which is just right behind the index finger. And so they're like, well, you hit him right. You just hit him too hard. So maybe just hit him less hard next time.
Right.
That's what the doctor says.
A lot of people don't quite understand that the MMA gloves put you kind of like in a different situation where you have to be almost a little bit more reserved than boxers are. And you have to find your shots a lot better. And I'm kind of like, for lack of a better term, I'm happy that you kind of found that out in your first fight. Like for me, it was like my 13th. But like you can do that. You could be a little bit more reserved, a little bit better in future fights. If I had to guess, I don't think we've talked about this at all. If I had to guess, I honestly just think that your uppercuts were good. I think that it was the extra hits that you were getting to get the win.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Because totally I feel like when I'm looking at those videos, I'm seeing I'm seeing big swinging actions that are hitting the side of the knuckle as opposed to the front of the knuckle. So if I had to guess, that would be my guess itself.
Okay.
But no, you were absolutely right that, I mean, it's the same thing that happened. Like I've got 7 screws in this baby, but like that's exactly what the doctor said to me. It's like, well, usually we see boxers fractures on these knuckles. And it's like, no, we know how to hit correctly. Yeah. That's how we're rolling. We have an interesting story with your walkout song. I mean, I'm not sure if it's like incredibly interesting, but I know that you came in here all prima donna style on the day of the fight and was like, I want to change my walkout song.
Yeah, sure
did. What was your walkout song and why did you choose?
I completely went rogue about, this was probably like the 4th or 5th time I went rogue on my walkout song. It was such a hyped up thing for me to have this walkout, and I kept choosing song after song after song, and then I would play it, and I'd be like, this one's kind of losing its spark just a little bit.
Right.
But my sister, her husband, so they stayed at my house the night before the fight, and I was getting ready that day for the fight, got my fight gear on, everything's good to go, and he says, "What's your team name?" And I was like, "Oh, it's Team Bangarang. That's Mike's team name. It's written here right across, my fight gear." And he said, "Oh, Bangarang, that would have been a cool song." Thinking about it, I was like, you know what, that would be a really cool song. I was like, I'm going to listen to it on my way to the fight gym. And then of course I played it, and super hyped in the day of, on the way to
in the zone.
In the zone, yeah. I mean, this song was just like a perfect alignment of the stars, and I was like, this has got to be it. So I decided to switch it day of, just for that extra hype value for me coming out, and I was grateful that we were able to get that done, and we didn't even know it was going to be that song until I was literally walking out, and I was like, "Oh shit, here's Bangarang,"
No, that is true. I remember running around the venue trying to find the DJ out of all the other tech guys there at Steelfist, because Steelfist is like a huge production. They do super well over there. So I'm just running around trying to find the actual DJ who can make those decisions. And he was like, "Well." It was like, I downloaded all the songs, but the Wi-Fi here sucks, and I have to download a new song. So it's either going to be when he's lining up to walk to the cage, it's either going to be Bangarang or it's going to be the last song that he selected. So you'll find out then. And I think that if you look on my personal social media page, we have like the backstage walkout, and I think you can see that like once the song came on, you're like, we got it. We did.
Oh, yeah. Job's done.
It was almost like we won then. We're like,
won.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the previous song was Heads Will Roll by the Yeah Yeah Yeahs.
Yeah, that's correct.
So we would have been happy with that one as well.
Yes, either one would have been nice.
Perfect. Why'd you pick that one?
That one was a little bit of an inspiration from my kids. I was originally looking into some Korn, right, some heavy metal, something a little bit hyped. That was always my mom's favorite genre as well. But my kids were attending the event, and I wanted to throw out a song that they liked as well. So I was going to do like Pink Pony Club remix with some EDM or some metal, and then we ended up finding this one, and of course they are jamming out in the kitchen when I'm playing this song, and I was like, oh, this one's going to be good for them too. And then the lyrics, just heads will roll, I thought it was a good fight song.
No, I think it's good too. I've seen it on a couple of like fight compilations and stuff too. So it's like it works. It does work really well. You mentioned your mom, and I probably should have cleared this before we started having an interview. I know that this fight's kind of partially dedicated to her. Are you comfortable with talking about your mom?
Yeah, totally. Yep. My mom was dealt kind of a real shitty hand in life. She had everything from diabetes, and then she went through kidney failure, dialysis, and then she finally ended up getting a transplant with the pancreas and the kidney, and was doing really well. Matter of fact, for at least 5-6 years after her transplant, a lot of years prior to that was not doing very well healthy, but then ended up with cancer. And so just kind of got every bad
draw
card you could get in the deck, and she passed away at 49 about 3-4 years ago. So, Yep.
Yeah. Well, so I'm sorry to hear that. And I know that you were talking about how much your mom sort of inspired you to be a fan of mixed martial arts, fan of the UFC, and then obviously that would inspire you to fight itself. What are your? Can you tell us any of like your favorite memories of you guys watching fights together or anything like that?
Yeah, totally. And oddly enough, I wasn't as into it as she was. Back in the day, because I had my.
She was a raging fan. I know you're a big fan. Yeah. She was a bigger fan than you.
She is. Yeah,
wow.
Was. Yeah. So that was the thing, especially back then, because I was playing baseball and snowboarding, basketball. I had my hands full with a couple other sports, but she was always like the biggest Chuck Liddell fan and Conor McGregor fan, and she wouldn't miss a fight week, was always wanting to get together and go out and watch those. So I would tune in every now and then, and she would, even if it was just by herself, she's up on the, on her feet and yelling at the TV and just having a good time watching them. And that was always a lot of fun for me, just watching her be so involved in a sport.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And that was like her niche. So it was really cool that I was able to, bring that full circle and end up in the cage myself. I thought that was something that I could dedicate to my mom.
Fantastic, dude. Yeah. That's fantastic. What do you think that she liked about it that is different than what you like about it?
The fact that she's a Conor McGregor fan, I guess. Yeah. She loves the hype train.
She got on that train?
Yeah, she's into it for the showmanship too, right?
Yeah,
those individuals, Chuck Liddell and Conor McGregor, they definitely had a
vibe about them.
A vibe, yeah. One of those things where I'm a little bit more into the martial art. Mm-hmm. She's into the hype.
Okay, so cool. That's awesome. And I think it's cool that we get to love different thing or the same thing for different reasons. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's super cool. And the fact that you were able to share that with your mom and then, like you said, come full circle and actually do the thing. I think that she liked your hype train. I think so. You probably came to the right coach for that, to be honest.
She would have been proud. She would have tuned in. She would have been the first like on every post. That's
awesome, dude.
She would have done all that.
Was there anything that turned out not to be as big a deal as you thought it was? I mean, I know that the fight ended quicker, right? Uh-huh. But everybody thinks fighting is something, and then when they go through fight camp and they do fight camp, it ends up being just something that they didn't fully experience, right? It's the same thing in theater and in movies. I've done all of that stuff too. You get backstage and it's just not as cool as you thought it was. What was not as big of a deal as you thought it was?
I guess the way I look at that question, I always try to be careful what you wish for type deal, right? Because next time it could be way more difficult than what this time was. But I think the weight cut for me is something I put a lot of stress and emphasis on in my day-to-day. But I ended up floating right in, and I weighed in even like 3.5 pounds under what my limit was.
Right.
Because I wanted to play the game a little bit, right? I manipulated my salt. I water loaded, I didn't eat carbs for the past 2 days.
All stuff you didn't have to do. I saw you water loading in class, and I was like,
"Yep,
it's his first fight. Let him water load. It's not."
Didn't have to do it. Was already 170 on the scale, but I thought, just in case that day I wake up 172, I'm going to be able to sweat this off, no problem. Right. And I woke up like 169. Even ate breakfast, and then by the time I weighed in, 166.5. So I was like, holy crap, definitely didn't need to do all of those things and stress so hard about it. I guess I just did it because I wanted to do it.
Yeah, well, that's intimate revelation, right? Not a lot of people are that type of person who would be like, hey, probably didn't need to do this, but I did it just because I wanted to.
Yeah.
I want to see you fight again. I think that the people at Steel Fist want to see you fight again. Totally. I think that the people watching fighting want to see you fight again. But like, this might be one and done. We never know. This might have just been an experience that you wanted to do.
Sure.
So that's why, like, when I saw you water loading, I was like, let him water load. It's part of it's part of the process.
Just let him do what he's going to do.
Like, it's part of the process. I think oddly for me, water loading it's a little bit of like a meditation process too. Like, you're kind of like getting in the zone. You're always thinking about the fight. Your mind's on the fight 3 days before and everything like that. And every time you pee, you're remembering you're fighting. And you're peeing every 15 minutes.
Dude, it's miserable.
So when I see it, when I see you in that mental zone, we don't want to break that mental zone by any means. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like I think that when we started, you were like close to 190.
I was, yeah. Yep.
Close to 190. So I can imagine your weight being on your mind in general, just because we cut you down like 20 pounds to be able to fight at 170.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And I was already pretty lean, so there wasn't a lot of like fat to be lost. So it was just interesting how smooth that was. And I know that's not the case for everybody. So that was just something that
it wasn't the case for your opponent, for sure.
Correct. Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
If you don't know, if you haven't seen previous podcasts, his opponent came 2 pounds over contracted weight, which, like 1 to 2 pounds isn't really a big deal, but the line has to be drawn somewhere.
Yeah.
That's how life works. So like him being over or under, I don't think would have affected whether or not you won that fight. And I said this in the scrap down too, like a lot of people think that being overweight is a huge advantage, and like it is. That's why the line is there, but at the same time, not so much. Like, think about how much work he had to put into trying to drop that weight to make contracted weight. You know what I mean? So that's what I advised Damon on the night before when I went up to him and I asked him if he wanted to take this fight. And he, basically Damon said that, he already lost. He lost the weight cut. He lost the fight.
Yeah.
That was his response to me. And I love that. And he was like, he lost the weight cut. He's like, I know I'm going to win this fight because he lost the weight cut.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's what I love about your mindset. I typically have a little bit of a more pessimistic mindset. That's where we kind of differ a little bit. And I feel like you err on the side of positivity. Like you have a very motivational mindset. Are there any people or books that you read to keep as positive as you are?
That's a great question. I don't really think so. I think that optimism is just something I practice day in and day out, whether that be something that's stuck with me, in the past, or I truly feel like you manifest your own, I don't know, destiny. Maybe that's a little too deep there, but you practice what you preach, and if you preach optimism, your life is going to lay out in front of you in a little bit better of a manner, I think, than somebody who might be down on themselves all the time. So right. I try to find the silver lining or the positivity in every situation and just shoot for that. That's kind of my win there. So yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. He had lost that day. I said, this is my first win. He has to go home and sit with that and feel like he's already lost. Mm-hmm. Where I get to go home and be like, yes, that was my win. Now I got to just roll that into the next day.
We did it. And I think that's inspiring that, one of the things about being a coach or teaching anybody is that like you kind of, you take on aspects of students and like people that you train and stuff. And that's that's something that I do admire about you. I see in training every day, you find where the happiness is. Mm-hmm. And in some ways I would love to be more like that. And that's what's great about being a coach is I get to see somebody have an attribute that I want, and it's like a Pokemon. I was like, oh, I want that one. I want to capture that.
Grab
one.
this guy. Yeah, put it in my pocket.
What do you think that you can do better for your next fight? Are you going to fight again? First of all,
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, that's the plan. I anticipate fighting again. This hand should take anywhere between like 8 weeks to heal or something like that. But as soon as that happens, bring it back up to strength. You know, it could be as soon as later in this year. Matter of fact, we'll see how those cards play out and what the next move looks like from me. I've watched one of your posts on social media, and it was kind of like, when should a fighter fight next? You know, and I think there was something that I snagged, you know, a little piece that I kept from that, and it was that as long as I'm able to get better in between the first fight and the second fight, rather than just rolling the same physical energy, the same attributes, the same, you know, skill set, whatever you want to call it, I want to be able to elevate myself just a bit, you know, before I jump back into the cage. So
yeah, I mean, the philosophy of that post, I was asking a question more than necessarily positing an answer, but for me personally, if you don't feel like you've gotten better, then why are you doing it again?
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that's cool. So we're definitely going to see a fight too out of the Demon.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I'm thinking so.
All right. Internet. He said definitely.
There's
but then
peer pressure again.
But then he said, I'm thinking so.
Yeah.
So he walked it back for a second, but he got it. What do you? Did you end it on purpose in the first round?
I didn't. And that was the one thing too, like you asked me what I could have done better. I think replaying that fight, looking at a few things, you know, I was so focused on like, okay, make sure you breathe when you hit, you know, it's like the basic shit,
the
but
silliest.
Like make sure you're breathing. Yeah. And then my whole goal was offense. You know, it's like, if I strike first, I'm not going to give him the opportunities to hit me in the face, you know? So anytime he's going to come in, I'm going to strike or I'm going to counter, play a little bit of an aggressive game. But then my mind was so wrapped up on like breathe, offense, breathe, offense, breathe, offense, to where I can see a little bit of, probably should have kept your hands a little higher here, or your chin's a little high in the air on this one, right? Or did you drop your hands when you threw that kick? You know, things like that where it would have left me exposed. Just being cognizant or mindful of all of the aspects, you know, I think is something I would do a little bit different, rather than just have that.
Yeah, I think that in rewatching the fight, and especially, you know, when you do something like the scrap down, which is me overviewing your fight, not only do you have to like watch the fight, you have to edit the fight, so you watch the fight a lot, like a lot. I think one of the more proud things that I came away with after that whole process was how you pretty much set up everything.
The feints.
A lot of people come out and they just frickin' go. You know what I mean? Just like, especially when you have like that anticipation that we're talking about being filled up like a balloon that pops. A lot of times they just come straight in and they hit. And you did seem like you had a mind on you for that 33 seconds that we got to watch you.
Right.
And that's what's going to be fun, I think, to watch you, hopefully, with a opponent that can test you a little bit better, a little bit more, because I do want to see your fight IQ in that way, because you were setting everything up. I think you did like 3 feints in 33 seconds.
Yeah, I did.
And like you set up every one of your punches. You didn't just go in there and like swing and cross your fingers and hope for the best.
Try to overpower the guy. Yeah, I did. I tried to set up those shots, and that was one thing I was really proud of myself as well. But as you mentioned, just being able to showcase a little bit more of the martial arts, you know, and like, oh, you know, when someone, a grappler, watches my next fight, they're like, oh, okay, you know, maybe I don't want to grapple this guy. Or like, you know, hey, like a boxer watches it and like, oh, his head movement's solid, you know, like,
right.
Be fun to spar this guy, you know.
He did shoot in on you. That was surprising to both of us.
He did. Yeah, that was the first eye opener. You know, I did not expect that whatsoever.
And you hit that underhook under the chin pretty easily. You lifted him up. Can I hit you up over here?
Yeah, please. Thank you.
Because you're a little bit disabled.
I'll take all the help I can get. Truly.
A little bit disabled there. So be honest. What did I not do good in preparing you for? Like, I I love this so much, and I had so much fun with you in preparing you for this. I genuinely want to get better. I know that I probably fucked something up. So tell me what I can do better to train you next time.
Well, I remember this question from Mike Allen's post-fight Clink, and it's such a hard question for me. There's really not an answer I can give you, and I wish I could, just so that maybe
don't glaze me.
It happens to maybe you can elevate whatever as far as coaching goes, but I truly don't have another experience to compare it to, and so everything that I was taught and I was learned, I soaked in like a sponge, and it just so happened to pay off in the end. Like there was nothing I could say, man, I wish we would have prepared for grappling, because like you said, he shot that takedown and I was able to get that underhook and elevate him, and that saved me from getting taken down. I was able to work in my feints and I could see the openings, and I took every single one of them and ended up with a TKO in 33 seconds. So there's not
can't complain
any one thing I could pinpoint that says, hey, Mike should have done better at this. I truly believe that your coaching was what got me that W.
I appreciate that. Well, thank you so much. I mean, you're glazing me a little bit, and I understand that, so I'll be critical of myself. I know that I need to figure out how to get and maintain a competitive grappling program. I for sure need to do that. I know that was probably the most thing that the biggest thing that you were worried about in when he ran in on you. And, you did what we trained. We trained that with you specifically. We trained that underhook. We trained pulling you up. We trained getting the hands off of the legs, all of that stuff. We knew that you wanted to go in there and strike. But I think what I would love to do is to have more of a competitive grappling program for you guys to be able to feel more confident in when it comes to the ground. We do have a grappling program here, and it's a good grappling program. But I think that I need to elevate that grappling program to the fact that you have the confidence that you do in our kickboxing program.
Yeah,
I don't think my fighters have that confidence. That seems to be kind of the through line. That's something that I'm going to be looking to work on, because that's what we do. We go in, we find our flaws, and we fix them. That's our goal.
I do agree with that. And as a mixed martial artist, I think that's important. Where I was like, okay, at least every fight starts on its feet, right? And if I get to the bottom, what am I doing? I'm getting right back up. I'm not going to accept that bottom position. And then just the other day when I came in here, I was like, man, I've been able to rank up pretty high on that kickboxing and striking side of things, where somebody would ask me like, oh, what belt do you have in jiu-jitsu or grappling or wrestling or whatever that might look like? Where I couldn't even tell them. I don't know what my level is exactly, because I'm so focused in striking. Like, I'm sure I've got a skill set there that it's better than a lot of people.
Right. But definitely better than the civilian. For sure.
Yeah. But it's hard to gauge. So I think something like that could be helpful.
Nice.
Yeah, you're absolutely
right. I appreciate that criticism, because I mean, I agree with it. It's just something I have to do. Grappling is just so hard for people to do. So it's hard to sell. Like, honestly, I have a hard time giving away grappling for kids.
Here's a $5 bill to come into my grappling.
It's just like it's like, I'll pay you to grapple if you come in and do it. What went through your head when you realized that you won?
Man,
was it nothing? Feeling... I feel nothing. I hear white noise after a competition.
Yeah.
And I kind of go on like robot autopilot of things that I've prepared. That's just me personally. But I assume that that's not the same for everybody. So what went through it for you?
Yeah, it was such a weird feeling. And I hate to be that guy that was like, because again, be careful what you wish for here. But if, I would have loved for that fight to go longer, and I hate saying that, because the outcome was everything I ever wanted it to be. Got the TKO, got it quick, and really enjoyed that. But my first feeling as soon as that thing was over was literally like, that's it. that was my first thought was, like I'm down to keep going. You know what I mean? Like I know we stopped this fight, and the ref did a great job at stopping it at the right time. Had he just finished, rolling onto his back because that's where he was going next, it still would have been just raining down shots. Yeah, for sure. So I think the ref stopped it at the perfect time. But that was my initial thought. Was like, I still have a lot of energy. I still have a lot of energy. What am I supposed to do with all this?
We talked, like we've said it several times in this podcast where we talk about like the idea of a balloon about to pop, and it feels like your balloon was still there.
Was still full.
Still definitely there. Was that like a morose feeling? Are you sad about the fact that you didn't get to last longer?
No. It was literally a question myself, like, what do I do with all this energy that I just hyped myself up for? Like, if I knew how to do a backflip, I could have done 30 of them.
Right.
And it was definitely an excitement, a happy feeling, an energetic feeling. And then after I kind of decided, okay, you've won. That was it. It turned more emotional for me, right? And then my kids came up on the stage, and it was like,
about that.
No, that's great. I was super pumped that they did. They were even more excited than I was that they did. They love the limelight a little bit, so that was really fun for them. Something that they'll never forget. So I really appreciate that as well.
Well, good. But I know we didn't talk about that beforehand. I just kind of assumed. I always try to like bring family into the situation. So especially because you went through an 8-week fight camp and they didn't get to see their dad for a long time. So to be part of at least that first win, I always think it's super important when someone like you comes in with a family unit, just like making sure that those kids get in there. But you could go ahead and finish that off. We were talking about what you would do differently next time after that win.
Next time after the win. Gosh, I don't know. Maybe say something crazy on the mic. I don't know. Get some extra hype. Did you want to be mic prep?
Did you want to be crazier on the mic?
It
felt like the announcer was like critical of me bringing your daughters in.
Yeah.
So like
they were rolling with it. I was rolling with it. It was all from the hip. I had even asked, or I had been asked, like, oh, do you have like a celebration in mind after you win the fight, like this signature move you're going to do, right? And I didn't have one, so I just let that roll, and didn't have any mic prep worked out. So I don't know, maybe a little something on those lines.
That's a pretty good criticism of what I can help with, like first time fighters in the future. We can. I know, like pre-fight, we go through like the walk through backstage.
Yeah.
We show you everything that you need to do, what's going to happen. These are when the fireworks are going to go off, all of that stuff. But we didn't do any like post-fight prep, and that's probably something that I can do better of, because even in weigh-ins, like the night before, I sent you a checklist of everything that you need to have in your bag, right?
Yep.
Even cards on the table behind the scenes here, like even with the podcast, I'm like, these are the topics we're going to talk about. Like just be semi familiar with them.
Yeah.
And I guess I definitely didn't do that for like, hey, when you win, this is what's going to happen next. I was very much concerned about just making you win. But I think I'm going to do better on that. Maybe even like write down a card or something for people to have, just like,
if you freeze up, say this.
If you want it, this is here.
Sure.
Otherwise,
could have been helpful. Yeah. Otherwise, the hand thing, like.
What do you think? What do you think won this fight? And again, think outside of just the performance of the fight. We talk a lot about the fight being the theater, right? That's the thing that everybody sees. What do you think won this fight?
As cliche as it might sound, 100% my training and dedication. I took this fight about as serious as anybody could. I don't think that there was a next level preparation mindset for me. I think I was locked in 100% of the time. And it goes back to, my kids hardly seeing me through fight camp, but even when they did see me, like I'm throwing jabs and crosses at my like living room wall, or something like that. Right. Shadow boxing and my nutrition, my, the weight cut, my breathing techniques. I would practice breathing. You know, I would practice my anaerobic. You know, my cardio, my strengthening, my techniques, just everything. Like there was no stone unturned.
We lightly touched on the concept last podcast, the Fight Jerry podcast, of being a tryhard, and how a lot of times, like, kids or people nowadays on social media, they think that that's lame. But it's the tryhards that run everything. Like, it's the tryhards that get the win. And that's what I liked about you. We talked about it before you even started. I didn't say the words tryhard, but pretty much when we had our conversation about you getting into fight camp, I was like, you have to be a tryhard. Like, it is what it is. The next 8 weeks are this, period. Yeah, and, totally. That was awesome. That's what was awesome about you. Now, what do you think literally won the fight? We talked about figuratively, right? I don't know if figuratively is the right term, but we talked about the mindset you had to be in to win the fight.
Yeah.
So when you watch the footage, what literally won the
fight? I think there's two things. Some of it comes into, I don't know, you might call it a chip on my shoulder a little bit, but the intimidation factor. You know, I think just looking at somebody who came in as well prepared physically as I did, even in weigh-ins, you know, when he missed that fight and then we have to square up, and if I'm looking at another guy who you can obviously tell has put in some of that work, like that already would be like, you know, like a little nervous about this fight here. So I may have won mentally because of those reasons, you know, beforehand. But physically, I think the shot that did it, you know, there was an overhand that I hit him with that kind of stumbled him back a little bit. And then I spoke about it a little bit earlier. I hit him with a body shot to bring his hands down, and then which opened up that uppercut, and that just sent him. That was the kind of finishing shot.
That uppercut was. I'm gonna get like nerdy for a second. For me, that uppercut was the samurai behind the person committing seppuku. So like, I personally think it's the body shot that won that fight.
I think so too.
Yeah. So that was like the dude stabbing himself and then cutting himself, and like the samurai behind was just putting them out of their misery.
Right.
I feel like your uppercut was that guy. Like, it was putting him out of that misery. You hit him so hard in that stomach. I was like, oh God. I think I was literally behind him. I mean, sitting behind the cage, right?
You were, like, you had to be right there.
But like, I saw his soul like hit out of his body, like Doctor Strange. It was just like, saw his soul pop out the back of him, and the uppercut was just like, all right, now go to sleep. It was like, it was a mercy kill at that point, in my opinion.
I practiced that shot too. Those body hooks, you know, were something that I just practice over and over and over again. So I'm super pumped that I landed that one as clean and as hard as it was.
It was clean, it was hard, and you set it up right, and that's what I love about it. Now that you've done this, you've gone through this process, you know, like we talked last session about how I'm not a religious person, but this is a religious feeling. I think that you are a fighter now. You don't get to take that away from anybody, right? And this is something that you own and you get to have. And now that you've done this, what advice would you give out there to other people who might be looking to get into an MMA program or looking to try their hand at fighting for the first time, or even just like, God, I like fighting. Maybe I'll just do MMA and see what happens.
Yeah, a few different questions there, I think.
I did load you up there. That's my fault.
Getting into a martial arts program is something that's, for some reason, my mindset tells me everybody should do it, you know, especially the kids, because you just never know when you're going to need the self-defense. I mean, and that's something that's always nice to have in the back pocket. I mean, even as a kid into an adult, you know, you go into a concert, right? And then there's like a group of 3 people in front of you that just start brawling, you know, and then all of a sudden there's punches coming your way. It's nice to be able to have like 1 or 2 moves to get yourself out of dodge, you know what I mean? Or somebody at the bar, you know, like, and you go into a mixed martial arts program and you train for a year or 2 and you take it serious. You walk into a room full of 10 people and odds are you've got a couple more skills than at least 9 of them, you know? Mm-hmm. So I think that's something that's it just builds confidence, right? It's such a confidence booster to be in a martial arts program. And then even more so next level, becoming a fighter, you know that you can kind of walk the walk. Right. Even if you've been talking the talk for the last 2 years, you know, you can kind of walk the walk a bit, which is a great feeling. But I think anybody who's looking to take their first fight, it really boils down to that try hard mentality for me. Drink water. Drink water, number 1. Drink as much water as you possibly can. Less
thinking.
Alcohol. Yeah. Yeah. Save this for the winner circle.
Right. Okay, fair enough.
But train like you mean it. You know, there's you said this to me before I walked out, like you only get 1 first fight. You only get 1. So really embellish that and give it your all. I don't think there's really any reason to like not try your 100%, you know? So when it comes to, when it comes to nutrition, training, with your water intake, your breathing, everything that I mentioned, each one of those is equally as important as the next. And I think just giving that your 100%, even if you got to get on ChatGPT and be like, hey, I want to breathe better than everybody else. What can I do? You know, like take those steps, and that hard work will pay off in the end. Yeah,
I agree with you. And like, I think you said it so very eloquently. You've said it in a way that like is super motivational. I'm going to say it in a way that's super reductive. Just care. Yeah. Just care. Come in here and care about it. And the right trainers can definitely get you there. Yeah. So, Damon, the Demon Anderson, what is next for you?
Gosh, I'm living a little day-to-day right now with this hand. Hardcast comes on Monday, and then getting this thing back to full strength is my thing. So I stay physically fit. You know, I'm in the gym. This last week, I've been eating pizza and ice cream and 16 donuts per day.
You should.
And that's not an underestimation. Kind of going crazy, but, you know, Monday, get the Hardcast back on. I'm starting back into normal day-to-day life, and for me, that's getting back to training.
Nice. And you're still in the martial arts school pretty regularly, aren't you?
Yeah, totally. I plan on sticking around, even if, you know, I look like an idiot just walking around with a broken arm. But maybe I can lend a little bit of insight, you know, to some of these folks who don't have as much training or maybe just starting, you know, and say, hey, make sure you do this.
I personally think that it's cool to have that vibe. You know what I mean? So as much as you, even though your membership's paused, obviously, and we're not making any money off of you, but like you come in and help out, and because you like the environment, you have a thirst for knowledge, and that's one of the more fun things about I don't know, the environment that we cultivate here at the OMA Combat Club is that, you know, it's not the type of gym that people fight and then never come back to. It's like we have real martial artists here,
totally,
which is a lot of fun.
Yep.
Well, Damon, thank you so much for hanging out with me and having a drink with me. We can clink one more time if you don't mind.
Thank you for hosting.
This has been the post-fight clink. I have been Big Bang Michael Lasky. Thank you for watching, and join your local combat club. Jesus, what's the matter with you?
Perfect. Love it.